Time now for Focus, and today we're heading to Germany as MPs from a far-right party take their seats in Parliament. 92 politicians from the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, form the third largest party in the Bundestag. In last month's general election, the AfD scored highest in the east, in areas where people feel abandoned by Berlin, with higher unemployment and lower pensions. France 24 reporters have been meeting AfD voters to find out more about their motivations.
It's become something of a ritual in Dresden. Every Monday, the Pegida movement hits the streets to protest against a grab bag of issues: the so-called Islamization of the West, asylum seekers, and the country's political class. In the recent elections, the demonstrators voted massively for the Alternative for Germany party, or AfD.
Sure, they're much more right-wing than the Conservatives, but that's good, because the Conservatives have moved to the left.
AfD is important for us because we've been abandoned politically. Our pensions are lower than in the West. Our politicians have huge salaries, while the rest of us have the lowest in the country.
It's a protest, but also a show of identity, a waving of the flag. In this region, 26% of voters chose the extreme right, 3 times more than in the West, and they're proud of it.
We Germans in the East deal with things head-on, and we're brave, like we were in the summer of 1989.
The proportion of foreigners in the overall population is lower here than any other region in Germany. Still, the refugee crisis brought out a lot of frustration. Take the town of Plauen, for example. It's where the first big demonstrations against the communist regime took place in 1989. In the center town is a monument memorializing the East Germans who stood up to the system. But Frank Schaufel wants to show us this part of the past: industrial wastelands, a reminder of when Plauen was one of the biggest textile producers in the country. After demonstrating with Pegida, Schaufel joined the AfD party.
East German citizens have had enough. Since the fall of the wall, lost jobs have not been replaced. So when you have all these new people coming here without education, often illiterate, where are they supposed to work? How are they going to earn a living, found a family, when there isn't even enough for us?
Schaufel's an optician. In his shop, he collects newspaper articles about what he sees as the problems afflicting his region: a shortage of doctors, but also refugees and crime. Schaufel now sees the world through AfD-colored glasses, and he wants to be heard.
The political parties have forgotten the East. Because we're a small part of the whole German population, and our politicians have done nothing to defend us or meet our needs.
Second-class citizens ignored by the rest of Germany. That's the line the region's state secretary for integration hears all the time. For Petra Köpping, the AfD vote is, above all, a protest vote.
In my meetings with the public, people often come up to me and say, "Ms. Köpping, you need to integrate us before the refugees." They have in mind this giant gap between East and West Germany. Of course, this region has its fair share of racists, and there's a problem with the far right, as in other regions. But we also have people who have found a way to express their legitimate feelings of discouragement and anger.
The AfD has taken advantage of the discontent of a part of German society and is sending 92 deputies to Parliament. It's an historic breakthrough for such a party. According to this journalist who studies the extreme right, some of the new MPs have problematic backgrounds.
Take someone like Wilhelm von Gottberg, who minimizes the Holocaust in his writings and says it's a myth being perpetuated throughout Germany's contemporary history. This is typical AfD tactic: to say something absolutely scandalous and then to back off and pretend they were misunderstood or that their words were misrepresented by the media. But in the end, because of this tactic, what was taboo before has now become a subject of everyday conversation.
The radicalization of public discourse worries many in Germany. By the Brandenburg Gate, the symbol of German reunification, several thousand people gathered on Sunday to protest against the arrival of the new AfD MPs in Parliament. A Holocaust survivor made this warning.
No one should close their eyes on this, turn away, or think it will simply go away. This can all end very badly. It's already a pretty serious situation.
Opinion polls show that 2/3 of voters chose the AfD more out of anger than support for their policies. That doesn't change the fact that its entry in parliament is a turning point in post-war German history.
Joining me now is Stefan Seidendorf of the Franco-German Institute in Germany. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. Now, at the end of that report, we heard how the AfD's entry into parliament is a turning point for Germany. To what extent?
Well, it's something new to have this phenomenon of a right-wing populist party in the parliament. Yet this was a discourse that you could see throughout the country for some time already going on, for some years already. So it's perhaps even a good thing to have them at least in the parliament. So this is where the political battle can take place. This is where we really have to argue with them and where we really have to show also that they are not as good as they pretend to be.
Now, we saw in the report how they scored very well in the East. Are the complaints of AfD voters in the East, notably the fact that they say they're being left behind, are they justified? Is there really still such a divide in the country?
Very difficult question, actually. Of course, all Germany is discussing that point. Is it a particular Eastern German phenomenon or is it an all-German phenomenon? If we look closely, then the AfD has been elected, has been voted for throughout Germany, and by the same people. It's more a male phenomenon, so it's male voters. It's a phenomenon of course, poorer classes, but also of some middle classes that fear that they are disconnected more than they are really disconnected. And you have more of these people in Eastern Germany than in the West. But it's more of this social problem than of a real regional problem.
I understand that with their electoral success comes public funding, which could help the AfD root itself deeper into society, right?
Right. For some of these people, you know, it's similar to phenomena that you have in other countries in Western Europe with what Chantal Mouffe, the Belgian political scientist, called the 1/3, 2/3 society, with 1/3 of voters feeling disconnected from the discourse, feeling disconnected from the debate, not understanding why we speak of gender equality, of European Union, of this kind of abstract questions. And these people, of course, hope to get reconnected, to have their say, if we like it or not. And this is something that could well take place now that they are more present, that they have funding, and that they are getting better and better structured also.
Now, the AfD say that they're going to give Angela Merkel a really hard time. What do you think we can expect in that regard?
Of course, Merkel turned out as a weakened chancellor from these elections, and we have to wait for a moment still to see what government comes actually out. It could be that she really shows that she's the person still in the center of the game, facing the extremists from the left and, of course, also from the right wing, and giving this reassurance that a lot of Germans also are expecting from her. So this would be positive for her. And on the other hand side, it could also happen that really she will have a tough time, and this will be her last mandate, with an opposition rising against her within her party, also asking her to clearly position the conservatives, the CDU, more to the right of the political spectrum, and that would be a more difficult task for her then.
All right, well, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for your analysis. Stefan Seidendorf from the Franco-German Institute. That's it for Focus. Let's take a break. I'll be back at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.